What's up, guys? Gonna try and do this in a little different format to speed it up. I want to speed things up substantially. Tonight I'm gonna be testing the M390 Spyderco Military, which you see right here. Factory edge, but I put a little micro bevel on it. It's about 600 grit. There's that nice carbon fiber. So it's the factory bevel, which I estimate around 30 degrees. With probably a 40 degree little micro bevel on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get to the cutting so that I'm not wasting any time. Alright, I'm going to show initial sharpness, which is really sharp. I mean, it's up there. It's extremely sharp. So I did strop this after I applied that 600 grit edge on as well. So gonna go ahead and get to the cutting. I took a little break from doing these tests because people were taking them for more than they were. My videos were being taken and posted and then scrutinized and used for benchmarks when they're not supposed to be. My methods were called into question. Wasn't scientific enough, which these tests were never, ever meant to be scientific. I've said that hundreds of times. Gonna test sharpness after the first few cuts. I always do. And it looks clean. So anyway, if I forgot to say it, this is roughly 9 feet. I think it's right at 9 feet of 3/8 inch sisal rope. People were taking my videos, scrutinizing them, like I said, pretty much taking them for more than they are. They say without more scientific methods and a way of measuring the dullness curve, they're pretty much useless. And it kind of had my spirit down for a little while, but honestly, I still think it's useful. It's not scientific by any means, like I said, but it does show a knife being used in real time in a repeatable method. So I say it's fairly valuable for the people that don't really care about the science behind it. They just want to know what knife will stay dull or stay sharp and what knife will dull quickly. There doesn't have to be much science behind it to see that a knife doesn't cut at the end of a test, or that it does cut at the end of a test. And that's really all I'm trying to show. I want to cut a set length of rope. If it cuts at the end, then it did well. If it doesn't, then it didn't do well. I have no scoring system. The results are pretty much just based on my interpretation. I try and give you as accurate and detailed as a description as I can. So take it for what it's worth. If you don't like my test, don't watch it. Pretty simple. If you don't think it's valuable, don't watch it, don't pay attention to it. Anyway, I've gone through probably a third of this and it's still very clean. There's one little spot in there that I can get hung up on if I try, but honestly the edge is still extremely clean. Very pleased with it so far. Yeah, there's only one slight roll that I can feel. So I'll just keep cutting. Let me go to a new spot of the wood. Like I said, if people were having a lot of issue with these tests, and I don't know why they feel that it needs to be this ultra scientific deal, but that's just not my style. I never have really felt like catcher results and all that kind of stuff really gave me a good idea of how a knife performs. And there's a lot of dudes out there that do awesome tests and they rank the steel And I can say they're probably pretty accurate, but there's been a lot of times where I've taken a steel that ranked in the top 1 or 2 category out of like 10, and they just didn't perform that well. And not just in this test, just in overall use, they just didn't perform that well. And then I've taken some steels that by all means should have performed like garbage, and they've done extremely well. So some will say that that is evidence, clear and concise, that my tests aren't accurate because I'm getting results that differ from everybody else. But I don't see what's not accurate about it. I'm sitting here cutting rope, and the knife either stays sharp or it doesn't. So it's not wanting to grab the paper in that spot. Well, could have just been me. It's still slicing fairly cleanly. If I push cut, it won't still slice the phone book paper. But if I push cut, it won't cut the paper. But if I slice, it still goes through fairly cleanly. Somebody always asks me to do printer paper, so I'll cut a couple times on printer paper. And printer paper is no problem. It's still plenty sharp enough for printer paper. I can still push cut that very easily. So I don't have much left, so I'll just continue on. Probably knock out this last bit in one motion. These militaries are just incredibly comfortable. The huge handle makes it really comfortable to cut with. This one seems to be ground a little bit leaner than the other ones I've used. I don't know if that's just me or the really shallow bevel or what, but it seems to cut a lot easier than some previous ones I've tested. I apologize if you can't see what I'm doing. This rope gets everywhere. It's impossible to keep this stuff off the floor. Move to some fresh wood. Gonna go ahead and test sharpness again. I know, well, a 4-inch piece, I might as well finish the test. Alright, let's see, will it cut printer paper? Of course it will. I honestly don't feel any appreciable difference in sharpness when cutting printer paper. That's why I don't really use it. Phone book paper is much thinner, much easier to tear. So honestly, I think it shows sharpness a little bit better. Do have some nicks and some rolls, but as long as it's not catching on the damage, it's still extremely sharp, as you could see just then. It will still slice cleanly as long as I avoid the damage. And that's another thing about this test. The way this rope is, it's so abrasive. It's nearly impossible for an edge not to withstand some damage. And this knife is one of those times where it appears to be duller than it really is. The damage is making it appear to tear the paper, when in reality the edge is still very sharp, extremely sharp. I mean, it's still, you can see it shaving off my thumb. I don't know if you can see that, but it's still grabbing on my thumb easily. So yeah, still extremely sharp. So, M390 is supposed to be pretty much equivalent to one of my other favorite steels, which is 20 CV, and I would say it's pretty much spot on. The edge thickness of the SOCOM Elite is probably one of the reasons that that knife didn't withstand the damage that this did. This has a much thinner edge on it, so overall pretty amazing. I think this did better than S90V in my tests. I'll have to go back and look, may even retest S90V, but I think this did better. It's still ridiculously sharp. I probably won't even touch it up after this, actually. It's that sharp still. So anyway, I hope I got through this faster than normal. I tried to. Not going to do the microscope thing this time on the next test. I probably will. I just don't have time for it tonight. So anyway, M390 is really good stuff, at least from Spyderco. I would put this in the top 3 easily. It just stayed sharp. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.